Great. I'm Mark Loepker, and what I'd like to do is kind of describe what we're doing with the community, with the high school CAE program. Most of you probably know by now that the National Cryptologic Museum Foundation, along with Dark Enterprises, Moraine Valley Community College, and University of Alabama, Huntsville, are doing this particular effort to take a look at the high school level, and does it make sense to do a CAE similar program at the high school level. Kind of a thought on what those two words mean to us, feasibility and advisability. The feasibility is, can we even do it? Can it be developed? Can it be implemented? And then the advisability aspect is, should it be developed and implemented? So we are approaching this from a research perspective. So these are the titles of the research questions that I'm going to go through each one of these a little bit more in detail, and then talk about our steps we're taking and the final report and recommendations during this 2-year study. I'm not going to read these slides to you. You can read them when they're up on the screen. But it's basically to walk through and do some deliberate due diligence in answering these questions on acceptability. What might comprise a high school CAE program, and how would it be implemented? How would it be integrated into the current high school environments? What are the other activities that are going on right now within the high school environments that deal with cyber? As most of you know, there are robotic classes, clubs, there are cyber clubs, there's Gen Cyber, there's Cyber Patriot. There's all these different activities that are currently out there with the high schools. So how does that all integrate? How does it all combine together? How would you implement? Obviously, we have a worked history of over 20 some odd years, I believe. Yes, over 20 years with the Centers of Academic Excellence at the college level. So there's a lot of history there on implementing CAEs at the college level. But how does that integrate into the high school structure, where there's a different environment, a different state environment, different laws, et cetera. So we're going to really take a look at all those. And then kind of what is the utilization? How would this program be used to further this pipeline development at the high school level? Another important aspect of the study is going to be, okay, how do you sustain it? I know Tony has worked extremely hard, as well as the rest of the CAE community, along with Lynn Clark and all of us who've been involved in the CAEs for these 20 years. And we've had some opportunities to figure out how to sustain the program. And so those are not insurmountable activities, but they are something that needs to be addressed if we're going to do something at the high school stage. We realize that there's over 130,000 high schools out there, or K-12 schools that we have to address. And so that's a lot bigger population than the university population. And so what are those costs and benefits that we will be looking at in this particular study? And then is it practical? Are we going to get the return on investment? Is it something that will really benefit the high school students? And then we will look at it from the advisability standpoint. We may figure out that, yes, hey, it can be done, but should we do it? So you are one of the avenues of our methods of collecting data in the CAE community. So here's kind of an initial list of our brainstorming of who we're going to be talking to, the stakeholders, and collecting our data. Obviously the CAE community has the rich history of knowing what it takes to be a CAE, knowing what the requirements are at the college level, what kind of requirements of KSAs would we put on a high school level to do that? What does it mean to get designated at the high school level? So we're going to be coming out and seeking your advice and counsel. We're also going to go to the state departments of education. Here in Maryland, we're already starting that work with the Maryland State Department of Education, and in the discussions there with several other states. We're going to be taking a look at existing high school cyber programs who are already getting really great comments from high schools who have very dynamic programs. One in particular with the National Cryptologic Museum Foundation, we're partnering with the Alabama Cyber Technology and Engineering School down in Huntsville. We're helping them develop the very first that we know of American history of cryptology. And we're doing that through NSA and through other resources to help build that history course for them. But there's an example of a high school who's really dedicated to cyber. They're not alone. There are plenty of them out there who are. And so we're going to be going to these existing high school cyber programs and seeing what they're doing. Where are the successes? How are they actually providing their programs to their students? We're going to be taking a look at national organizations. I talked about Cyber, Gen Cyber and Cyber Patriot. Both of these programs have a maturity about them that have dealt with high school students. So we're going to be looking at them. We're going to be looking at the Girl Scouts. The Girl Scouts have a very dynamic cyber program, and the Boy Scouts have their aspects and how they've approached cyber. So these national level organizations have history on how reaching these particular student environments at the high school level. We're going to look at the laws that deal at the state level. Every state has the responsibility to educate their high school students. So we have to respect those laws and those practices and look at what they are. So we're going to be studying those particular attributes as well. And is there any legislative type challenges that we would need to overcome and or promote? We're also going to look at some industry stakeholders, those who are betting on the fact that we can bring this K-12 environment in a lot more robustly to fill those interested seats at the university levels, at the non-traditional levels of apprenticeship programs and or certification programs to help actually fill those 500 and some odd thousand jobs that are open that we all talk about. So industry has a stake in this. And so we'll be talking to industry as well. And then we're going to do that cost benefit study. Some of our steps that are already on the way, we are in the process of really diving into our project scope. As most of us realize, research projects, one of the toughest things to do up front is make sure your scope is well defined. If your scope isn't well defined, you end up all over the place and you end up not getting the results that you want. So we're going to be looking at our scope first to make sure we have a good program of work, of which then we're going to come back to Tony and his staff and the CAE community and say, okay, this is what we think we're going to do along with NSA, and make sure that this is kind of what the end results are being sought, to make sure we have that up front and correct. We've got a good notion of that. We've got a good start on that, but we want to do some due diligence and really refining that scope so we're on the right page with everybody, and that everybody will be brought along and informed and transparent on what we're doing. We're going to look at those high school education sectors and determine and discover who are the early leaders with cyber programs. And we might want to start recognizing those early leaders. For instance, this Alabama school, I was provided another lead of another school out in California. And so, you know, like I said, there are multiple of these. And so we're going to take a look and examine these and see if there's an indicator to really kind of promote the early leaders in this environment. We're going to make sure in step 3 that we look at all the other similar type programs that I've discussed and do due diligence and purposely look at that. And then look at those constraints and risk and enablers and benefits, because we have to be look at this from a very transparent and from a good objective of stepping back and taking a look at this effectively and efficiently. We're going to look at the financial costs, because there are financial costs. We know that. We've discovered through the CAE community that in order for this program to succeed, it must be funded. Nothing different than the high school. And the high school will be a lot different because there'll be a lot more. And so those financial costs have got to be discussed up front, and that'll determine that advisability part of this report. It may be feasible, but we need to look at it and make sure it's sustainable. If it's not sustainable, then there's a risk involved with that. So that's kind of in a nutshell where we are right now. We are having monthly sessions already with our team, and we're off and working, and we're really excited about within the next several months, probably springtime, we'll be coming back to the CAE community and beginning to do some focus groups, probably. Obviously, virtually is going to be the task of the day, not only because of COVID traveling, but it's cheaper to do it virtually, and people can jump on a call, and we can effectively and efficiently work towards this study. So pending any questions for me, whoops, I went too fast by the next slide. That's my email address. Please feel free to email me any of your questions, or I can take any questions right now.